explain that real quickly?
Yeah.
I'm a student of money. I bought my first silver in 1966. I didn't buy it, just didn't spend it. But historically, and Ray Dalio says it's best, when gold and silver track, that means this is going to end here. So I'm talking to people, hear that warning. What happens I was in Zimbabwe when this collapsed. What happens if it's the Canadian dollar, the peso, the euro? What happens if your currency collapses? What are you going to do? Hopefully it doesn't happen. But the reason I have so much silver is because my plan was, in case this collapsed, I can still grow out my silver eagles and change for food and money. Gold and silver, money, everything else is toilet paper. Well, be careful what you wish for, because it's by Ray Dalio, a very smart guy. He says when gold and silver move in tandem, that means the dollar is going to collapse. And from Germany, as you know, it was a Weimar Republic. And what happened was when gold and silver moved in tandem, that meant the smart money was dumping. I carry this around the place. This is Zimbabwe dollar.
Yeah, I got one of those as well.
So the smart guys were dumping toilet paper, and they were buying gold and silver. So that's why generally gold goes like this, and silver goes like this. But as Ray Dalio says, when they move in tandem, that means that people who know what they're doing are dumping toilet paper, and they're buying gold and silver. That's what it means. Now that's not good, because it also means the end of this. Because what happened in Germany is, the Weimar Republic, it collapsed. And they went to hyperinflation. That story about there was a woman went to the store with a wheelbarrow full of money, and they stole the wheelbarrow. They left the money. And that's what's happening this is the Zim dollar. It may as well be the US dollar. I just watched the debt. America is the biggest debtor nation in world history. That means we're printing money to pay our bills, the same as the Weimar Republic did. Now this is the part I remind people, because you're German, when the Weimar Republic collapsed, Adolf Hitler came to power. And a lot of Jewish people got killed. So what happens is when the currency collapses, like I said, I was in Zimbabwe when this collapsed, it goes to chaos really quickly.
History offers stark warnings about what happens when money loses credibility. Episodes like Germany's Weimar hyperinflation or Zimbabwe's currency collapse show social turmoil can follow monetary breakdowns. In Weimar's 1920s collapse, prices became meaningless overnight. In late 2000s, Zimbabwe notes lost all value and everyday life fell apart. When trust evaporates, people abandon currency and cling to tangible assets, often at great human cost. We see similar patterns today: soaring essential prices, debt spirals, and global stress. These events remind us that money isn't just numbers. It underpins societal order and economic stability.
Well, like I said, be careful what you wish for. If both are going in tandem now, the rich are getting richer, but the poor and middle class are getting poorer. I just had breakfast. It was $100. Now, I have enough money.
It's fortunately Canadian dollars, but...
Yeah, but $100 for breakfast. So that means with gold and silver are going up, so are chicken and eggs going up. And so mom and pop are sitting there pumping oil, pumping gas in their SUV to take the kids to soccer practice. And they're going, what happened? And that's because I'm a rich dad, poor dad, because we have no financial education in our schools. Because most school teachers are Marxists. They don't like money. So it's a terrible time in the world today, but I'm getting richer. Is that good?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Let's talk about something controversial that was making the rounds on the internet. It felt like last week. It was a video of you, saying, it's like, well, I sold all my silver and rotated into Bitcoin last year. Right? What's your position on that?
Well, again, this is a brave new world. It's called AI. It's artificial intelligence. It's like there's a Chinese guy. He's the Asian guy. So I'm the Asian guy. David Lim. Yeah. We're the Asian guys. So this my gold guy calls up Jim Clark. He says, "Man, you never sounded so intelligent." And I looked at it and said, "That's AI. That's not me. But thank you for telling me I sound intelligent." I had to crack up because my logic of why I didn't sell. That was the thing. He says, "Did you sell?" I said, "No, I never sell." But he says it was interesting because he couldn't tell the difference. He's a good friend of mine. I see him but once a month because I go buy more gold and silver from him, you know.
As currencies wobble, investors turn to hard assets to hedge against inflation and systemic risks. In 2025 to 26, central banks around the world accelerated gold purchases, reducing reliance on the dollar and reshaping reserve strategies. Institutional demand and geopolitical uncertainty have driven record inflows into precious metals and ETFs, and analysts are projecting sustained interest. Silver's unique dual role as industrial input and monetary hedge amplifies this trend. But this strategy carries volatility. Metals can swing widely on policy changes, market sentiment, and broader financial stress. Understanding these forces is critical for anyone navigating today's economic terrain.
Explain that real quickly.
Yeah.
I'm a student of money. I bought my first silver in 1966. I didn't buy it, just didn't spend it. But historically, and Ray Dallas is his best, when gold and silver track, that means this is going to end here. So I'm talking to people, hear that warning. What happens if I was in Zimbabwe when this collapsed. What happens if it's the Canadian dollar, the peso, the euro? What happens if your currency collapses? What are you going to do? Hopefully it doesn't happen. But the reason I have so much silver is because my plan was, in case this collapsed, I could still grow out my silver eagles and change for food and money. Gold and silver, money, everything else is toilet paper. Tough, because a lot of times, I was listening to the other guy on podcasts and YouTube. There's a lot of good guys on YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of fakes, also. Yeah. But he says the idea of living paycheck to paycheck is a myth. I said today he says they're living from paycheck to credit card.
Yeah.
In other words, they can't afford to go paycheck to paycheck. So if you are mom and pop and you're living paycheck to credit card, then as somebody that says you got a punt on second down or something.
Yeah.
You better start getting your mind fixed, because they don't teach you anything about money at school. They tell you to save toilet paper. They tell you to get a job, and AI is kicking in. They say, well, if you get good grades, you become a doctor or an attorney. AI is going to replace them. And you see the gold and silver going in tandem. And you look at history from Roman times to the German Weimar Republic. Every time they've tracked, this ended. So the question I asked mom and pop, what do you have that's money? That's the question. No. So I had tons of gold and silver. I got richer.
Across the world, everyday prices reflect deeper monetary strains. The cost of basic goods, fuel, housing, and services are climbing in many countries due to inflationary pressures and supply chain disruptions. This isn't just theory, it's reality for families balancing budgets amid rising costs. Many feel the disconnect between financial systems' abstractions and tangible necessities. When currencies weaken, purchasing power shrinks. Savings held in traditional accounts may erode. This chapter isn't just about markets. It's about real people coping with real financial stress, underscoring the stakes of systemic instability.
It's not that they missed the boat, but they're late. And so it's going to take more money because now gold and silver are inflated. I was buying silver when it was free, basically. And I buy my gold at $30. So I have a lot of it, but I could afford it then. I hate to say that, even I'm fairly wealthy. Yeah. But when I have to pay $100 for breakfast,
it hurts.
Yeah. So I don't really have the advice. But I say to mom and pop, this is your greatest asset. Like this left ear and right ear, something sits behind that. It's your brain. Use it. Now, don't just wear your headphones on it. Yeah. But you better start figuring out what's real for you. Yeah. What is real? What can you do? Yeah. You send your kids, my family sends their kids to school. And I think I'm just cracking up, Kai, because, my poor dad was a PhD from Stanford and all this stuff. And there was a woman who finally sued the school system because she got her master's degree and she learned nothing. I just cracked up. I said, it's about time they call those school teachers, what they're teaching is nothing. Nothing.
Nothing of substance.
Yeah. What do they teach you about money? Save it?
No.
Work hard for it? Pay taxes? That's all Marxism. You should read this book here. Read the Communist Manifesto. 1966, I had to read this book here because my economics teacher, I went to military school. He says, you must know your enemy. And I read this book here. I said, oh my God.
One of the enduring challenges of modern money is the gap in public understanding. Most formal education focuses on earning and saving in fiat currency, with little emphasis on monetary systems, inflation, or diversification. This leaves many ill-prepared for economic shifts. Financial literacy, understanding assets, liabilities, diversification, and risk becomes crucial when currencies and markets are under pressure. By empowering individuals with knowledge, people can make informed decisions rather than reacting emotionally. In a world where AI, automation, and financial innovation reshape work and money, solid education is a foundational defense.
My family's Marxist. They're good people. They believe in abolition of private property, which is California is doing right now with this wealth tax. They also believe in workers of the world unite, labor unions. My poor dad was head of the teachers union. The biggest labor union in the United States are teachers.
Yeah.
And they said a graduated income tax is essential for the spread of communism. If you're a communist, better read this book and look in the mirror here. Yeah. And that's why I say I took a company public here in China, and the Chinese took it. So I don't do it's called country risk. You learn the hard way.
Exactly.
So I say to people, why would you do business in California? I don't do business in China.
Yeah.
I don't do business in California or New York. Do you know why? Because look at all the billionaires who are leaving California today, 2026, because the communists who run California believe that their wealth, Bezos' wealth and those guys' wealth, belongs to them. So the wealth tax says this. Let's say I have a Monet or a Van Gogh painting, and it's worth $10 million. The communists of California are saying, we're going to tax you for that. And that comes straight out of this book here, The Abolition of Private Property. What they say that Monet or that, belongs to the state. And the central bank is the same thing. The central bank, the Fed, is Marxist. I'm not saying they're good people, bad people. Just read the books and smell the coffee.
As we move through 2026, the interplay between currencies, debt, and hard assets will continue to shape global economics. Investors and everyday people alike must ask, what holds real value? Can fiat money maintain trust under pressure? Or will alternatives like precious metals, tangible property, or digital assets redefine what we consider money? While markets fluctuate, the larger question is about resilience. How societies adapt, diversify, and safeguard wealth. This is not a simple narrative of doom or prosperity, but an invitation to understand deeper financial forces and prepare thoughtfully for what comes next.
Well, as you know, I wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad because I'm a financial educator.
Yeah.
I'm not a financial planner, thank God. But there's another great book I recommend reading. It's called When Money Destroys Nations. Mm-hmm. It's a friend of mine. He's talking about what happened when they printed the Zim dollar. People should read this book. It's called When Money Destroys Nations, because Zimbabwe is a very rich country, and it brought Zimbabwe down. I was in Zimbabwe when this collapsed. I have the good luck of being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
When the Zim collapsed, the first thing I had is young black kids. Yeah. They all carried AK-47s. I'm a hunter, I'm politically environment. I'm sitting with a double rifle. Double rifle is, 250 cal rounds inside there. And these black guys as kids, 19, 20 years old, they carry AK-47s. All I could do was this.
Yeah.
When this collapsed, chaos took over. Yeah. And I stood there like this. His kids got these guns in me. I said, what do you want? They took everything.
Yeah.
And then there was a white Rhodesian. She was Zimbabwe, called Rhodesia before. She came out of her 400-year farmhouse, and she looked at the professional hunter and me. She says, burn this place down. I don't want those bastards taking this thing. Yeah. So she's a tiny little woman. She says, burn this place down. They dragged her off. That's what happens when money destroys nations. So my PH and I, we got torches. First place we went to the diesel yard.
Yeah.
Set fire to our diesel yard, had to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Then we burned down her farmhouse, and we burned down all of her thatch, her thatch properties. And so that's why this book here, Philip Haslam,
Yeah.
When Money Destroys Nations, is about how this brought down a rich country called Zimbabwe or Rhodesia.
We're on the precipice of that happening.
Exactly, Kai. Exactly. So the best thing you can do is put something new between this ear and that ear.